Next in talent management is succession planning model. So how the model works to see that the talent management is working perfect. So you have one after another: education and training, self development, competence driven, strategically targeted rotational assignments, future competencies needed aligned with strategic plan, or CEO or leadership commitment and involvement. And it has at least a few factors where accountability comes at the self development level, and competency driven strategic targeted is associated or connected with education and training. Similarly, future competencies are based on the measurability. So like that, various factors lead to results. That is, number one, talent driven culture; number two, accredited development; and number three, vision for future advancement. So it's a pyramid approach where the succession planning model starts with education and training and ends with leadership commitment and involvement, or at the CEO level. So if a person has to gradually reach the higher level, education becomes mandatory, then followed by that the training, which is part of the recruitment and selection. And how the person is able to move to the next level by the experience one is able to gain, as well as the training one is attending, or the training one gets imparted at frequent intervals, which is mandatory to move to the higher level. So it is compulsory, and at the same time the individual should ensure that the role that he or she is into is not getting affected when they are getting trained. So in most of the manufacturing industries, at least some minimum time is being given as people to learn new things, as well as the things that is required for the area where they are going to work into or work. And shuffling of departments happens at exceptional levels, and normally specialist people only being absorbed for the respective department and to the respective role. But there may be circumstances where work shuffle might take place, but it is ultimately the decision of the top level management to implement such things, and at the same time they want to ensure that the job is not getting affected at any cost. So next, what we are going to see is the challenges in succession planning. So various factors are involved in the challenges as far as succession planning is concerned. One is a lack of funding for leadership development. Next is inability to locate, create a pool of active and passive candidate. And third one is lack of assessment tools. And fourth one is lack of succession planning tools and career development tools. And fifth one is inability to identify the future talent needs of the organization. And the last one, lack of interest from senior executives. So if you see the five factors, each one plays a different role, and there is minor variation between one to another. So not less than 30% of the factors, each and every factor carries as a challenge in succession planning. In that, lack of succession planning tools and career development tools is almost equivalent to 50% when compared to other factors. And lack of assessment tool and lack of interest from senior executives play equal percentage, because this is taken as a low perspective, but at the same time equally important. Lack of interest from senior executives cannot be set aside, because their interest is also needed when succession planning is required, as the senior executives, they themselves, if they are part of the succession planning, they should have the interest to move to the next level. And as said earlier, in public sector, how it is being taken into consideration, if the promotion is not going to yield them any big benefit, they won't show interest towards the senior management role. And though they have the required qualification and experience that is required to reach that position, sometimes they may give an objection letter, or they may show a disinterest in reaching that level, and even they go to the level of saying that not interested in promotion. And it's a known fact that if they are getting promoted, they may be transferred to any location either within the state or outside the state. And when they are settled into a particular city or a township, they may show less interest towards moving, as moving or migrating to other location may be a complicated one, or they have to bother about the studies of their children, and definitely they will find it difficult to get the education of similar nature in the place where they are getting shifted. So they will try to avoid, or they will try to refuse promotion, and they will give it in writing. So this is followed in public sector, particularly in banking sector, where transfer becomes mandatory if a person is working for at least a minimum 3 years, as the case may be. And lack of funding for leadership development. So leadership development requires training and development, and the industry, if it is facing a financial crisis, or it is not showing any major profit, will show less interest towards training its managers. And if training is not being provided to the managers or the leaders, so expecting better performance or a competitive role from individuals may be a difficult thing, as they have to learn new things, what is followed or what is being carried out in other industry of similar nature. Inability to locate or create a pool of active and passive candidate. This is another problem faced by industry, where they have less HR role, or there is no dedicated team to take care of identifying the right candidate to succeed as a plant manager or a role which is expected by them. And this is another problem faced by the industry. Because of that, they will try to avoid successor planning. Instead, they will try to recruit from outside. And next thing is lack of assessment tools. And if they are not having any performance appraisal tools or management tools, that is another problem which faces the industry to replace the successor part, or to replace a position which is handled by a person with experience and quality. Lack of succession planning tools and career development tools. So in addition to lack of assessment tools, lack of succession planning tools and career development tools also play a major role, and that is why it is almost close to 50%. And this cannot be neglected like that, and industry has to look into that to see that what measures they can take, or what sort of tools that they can apply, so that this problem can get solved. And next comes inability to identify the future talent needs of the organization. So this is another vital point, where inability of identifying the future talent people from the available resources, how to identify them, whether any screening has to be done or training has to be provided, and from the outcome of the training, any few persons can be picked up or selected for the new role that can be assigned, to ensure that they are able to perform in a better manner. Lack of interest from senior executives. So as discussed earlier, lack of interest from senior executives cannot be taken lightly, as their involvement is equally important to see that the performance of the employees are being appraised or monitored, and they are being given equal importance to motivate them and to take them to the next level, and so that that internal promotion factor is adhered without any barrier.